Orbital situation in maximum or authentic orbital systems. First part. Theory of everything. Ferman 1992. Because it is a very important topic, perhaps I will dedicate several parts to its explanation, since I would like to give the main points of it, even if they are summarized. The first thing to explain is that an orbital system is the normal and obligatory way of gathering and structuring the large accumulations of matter in the cosmos, and is formed by a central core and orbital satellites rotating around it, mainly in the plane of the universe. Rotation equator of these systems. And this occurs both at the microcosmic level, in atoms, and at the macrocosmic level, stars. Once matter accumulates, two force fields are created around these material nuclei. The first, and which initiates and promotes material accumulation, are the gravitational fields or concentric forces towards the nucleus, which, as we have said, attract and compact the nuclear matter. The second, and with the opposite direction and antagonist of gravity, and arising from this accumulation of matter, are the magnetic fields, which, through the action of the expansive pressure of the energy in the nucleus, try to redistribute particles or orbitals around this nucleus in well-defined stationary orbits. By rotating the nuclei and dragging these gravitational and magnetic fields in their rotation, each of them produces their corresponding layers and orbits. Gravitational fields produce extensive gravitational shells around the core, while magnetic fields create strict and well-defined positive orbits on which they attract and maintain orbitals, electrons, planets. In the drawing, the gravitational layers are exposed in color while the orbits are marked in white. Both the gravitational shells and the magnetic orbits need and tend to be completed to achieve a perfect balance of the entire orbital system. The gravitational layers are the so-called atomic valence layers, and as we have said, they also need to be saturated and complete. Magnetic orbits represent the limit and total atomic volume, and therefore have an extraordinary power of attraction and management of the orbitals, also marking the total energy of the system, and its energy or charge state, positive or negative, depending on the volume and energy density contained in the system. The gravitational layers are very wide since gravity decreases with the square of the distance from the core. On the other hand, the magnetic fields are better redistributed within the orbital system, and are therefore more proportional to the distances. For this reason, and as deduced in classical physics, each gravitational shell contains several orbitals in order of 2n squared, with duplication of shells, which, as we will say later, this duplication is due to the different directions of spin of the nuclear mass, depending on whether it is on the front face or the opposite face. Orbital situation, second part. In this second drawing, we see a form of periodic table of the elements in the shape of a rainbow because it is better observed how the gravitational layers are represented on top of each other like the colors in the rainbow. We also see how the duplication of these gravitational layers is due to the fact that the core rotates, each of its faces with respect to any position on the surface, one rotates in one direction and the other in the opposite direction. This means that the fields of the two directions of rotation cannot be added together, but on the one hand those that go in one direction are added, and on the other hand those that go in the opposite direction, and thus the result is a doubling of gravitational layers, each of them containing the same number of orbitals, and which would be 2n squared, that is, those, 2, 8, 8, 18, 18, 32, 32. Asterisk warning. It must be stated here that in large atoms and stars, the orbitals closest to the nucleus, and when they get too close, are absorbed, and in the end only about 20 orbitals remain in the outer shell. That is why large atoms are so similar to each other. In this third drawing, a nod is made to QM so that they do not feel discriminated against with this model, and an explanation of the distances and orbital radii is given, also in terms of a standing wave on which the electrons and planets riding on their peaks or crests. Of course, respecting the cosmic structuring of rotation of the orbitals on the axis of the spin equator, since due to the spin of these orbital systems, the orbitals are forced to be located at this spin equator. But the important thing here is the adjustment of the dimensions of atoms and stars, for which the summarized formulas for this are set out, and in which we can measure, among others, atomic radii, radii of each of the orbitals, electrons, planets, atomic density, reason for the loads and their measurement index. And in this fourth drawing we see a general explanation of atomic dimensions, with an example, lithium, in which we can understand the ease of measuring the main dimensions of atoms. And they can also be applied to the stars, adjusting the equivalence modules between both cosmic levels. Maximum or authentic orbital systems. Here we must clarify that there is a strip or range of orbital systems in their maximum extension or dimension, for example from the hydrogen atom to the largest atoms, in which their magnetic potential is so extensive and powerful that they have strict monitoring of their energy contained in these large systems in such a way that they capture or emit all types of particles to always maintain the level of energy density required by the cosmos. Reaching extreme cases in the largest atoms, where magnetic forces can emit nuclear radiation to get rid of excess material, and even ultimately explode and destroy the nucleus and system, as occurs in atoms later to uranium, and in stars in supernovae. Well friends, here is a summary of principles in cosmic structuring. Thank you very much for your attention and kindness.